Hey guys, happy Thursday. I wanted to take just a minute. We've had a lot of new people join the gym lately, which is awesome. And I put something out a couple weeks ago about recommended gear, and I wanted to take just a minute to explain to some of you all that have been here a long time or that are new some of the things that I suggest, or actually I almost think they're required uh, for you when you start doing CrossFit. Not only that, but how to use some of this stuff the right way, because I think I get a lot of questions on that, and I've seen a lot of people out there say, well, these are my favorite grips, or I prefer these shoes, this and that. So I wanted to just give you my take on this stuff. Part of being an affiliate or a gym owner, one of the advantages, I guess, is that a lot of these companies, and there's millions of companies out there vying for your patronage when it comes to CrossFit gear. They're always trying to sell you their thing. And so we actually get sent a lot of free stuff a lot of times to try. Especially when we go to regionals and different booths, and we get invited to try lots of different products. And I've gotten to try most of the products out there in a lot of these categories. So I just want to give you my take and my reviews on them, what I recommend, and hopefully maybe that'll help some of you all that have questions when you're going on and shopping for this stuff. And I'll make this quick as quick as I can. I'll start with the most obvious thing, and that's, to me, grips. I think the day you start doing CrossFit, this is the first thing you should purchase when you've got some extra money. I don't like to recommend anyone have to spend a lot of money to do this, but it is something that I recommend everybody have, just because you saw today we got a big pull-up thing before the workout, and last week or a couple weeks ago we had a big pull-up workout, and a lot of people tore their hands, and that's really avoidable, and it's not something that we ought to be bragging about. It's nothing cool about that. It actually prevents us from being able to train for a few days, which is terrible. And grips are what it's all about when it comes down to that. So grips are something that, me personally, I don't jump on the rig, don't jump on the bar without having my grips on. Very, very rarely. Maybe if it's just a couple reps of something, but rarely will I ever do anything on the bar without grips. And I think this is something where you really, there's a lot of bang for your buck when it comes to grips. I do think in this case you get what you pay for, and I've tried probably 20 different brands of grips. I've tried everything. I'm a big guy, so it's really important for me to have good grips. And it starts kind of your bare bones basic grip looks something like this. These are kind of, you see these at the gym. You've got extra pair of these. These are your basic leather grips with a sewn-on strap right here. This is what I started with. It's what most people, if you go on Amazon and spend $10 for a pair of grips, you get something like this. And it will work. And they're fine for a lot of you. They're maybe even fine for most people. But they're sort of what I would call the bare minimum. I don't like these anymore because I think there's a lot better options out there. You got to spend a little bit more money for that. But the disadvantages to these are, first of all, this seam right here that's sewn on. Over time, at least for me, I'm heavy where this grip stretches. If you use it the way I'm about to show you how to use grips the right way, this will stretch and eventually it rips right down this seam. So these last me like about a month before they rip apart and I have to throw them away, but you can buy these on Rogue. I don't like the leather that's used on these. If you buy some cheap ones on Amazon, you can just look at these and tell they're kind of cheap and flimsy. The leather's not high quality. It doesn't have a lot of stickiness to it, so you've got to use a lot of chalk. And it's also a little bit stiff leather, so you can't get your hand around the bar so well with these. But they will work for a beginner. Even for you lighter guys, we've got guys in the gym that their strength to weight ratio is really good, so they don't need a ton of support when they get on the rig. These are usually fine for those guys. I know guys like Evan and Kirby, and a lot of guys won't use, if they use grips at all, this is all they need, and it works fine for them. For me, I need more support. I need something a little bit higher quality. So I've kind of gone away from these, and I'll show you what I use. The next thing sort of like this that a lot of people have got into is what we call the tape or natural type grips. There's a brand out there called Natural Grips. That's literally just a thin piece of tape. I think for gripping strength and for feeling of the bar, that's probably the best thing out there. They're actually molded pieces of tape you put on your hand, and then you tape them around your wrist or use a wrist wrap to hold them down. Several athletes in the gym have used those. They don't provide any grip advantage at all, but they do provide that protection against your skin. The thing I don't like about those is in a wet, sweaty, hot workout, especially in this humidity, they get wet very easily and sweaty. They begin to fall apart. And the other thing is they're almost disposable. They last a few weeks. Maybe some of y'all can stretch them out for a month or so, and you have to throw them away and buy more. So it's something where you have to constantly be buying new grips. So I want something that's going to be I'm going to spend a little bit more money on, but it's going to last me a lot longer time. So I'll show you my 2 favorite grips out there right now. Again, I've probably tried 20 different grips, 20 different brands. I get sent this kind of stuff all the time, so I'm always wanting to try it. But my 2 favorite ones out there that I keep in my bag. First, what I was using were these right here. These are my everyday go-to grips. They're made by a company called Bear Complex. As you can see, they're one solid piece, and this isn't actually leather. The back side is leather, actually, but the front side of these are carbon fiber. So they're very, very sticky. They are a 2-finger grip. They would go on like this. Let me show you how you should use grips. Most people think you would get these and put them on and strap this tight to your wrist, and then you just pull this tight to your hand like this, and then grip the bar. And this is where you would start pulling. This isn't actually the way you should use the grip. Most of y'all, when you buy grips, need to buy them in a size bigger than what they say, because if you talk to any gymnast, the correct way to use a grip is to actually let the slack in this grip build up like this. And if you can see that, it forms this little pocket that right here, you see how that's happening, will bend over the bar. So this extra grip slack, see that slack right there? This extra grip slack comes up and over the bar. Now it lays on top of the bar. That grip would lay on top of the bar. I don't have a, here's one of Henry's, it's a Ninja Turtle sai, but we're going to pretend it's a bar. So it lays on top of the bar like this, and then my hand just goes over the bar and holds that grip to the bar. So when I grip a bar this way using these grips, all my pressure now is on the grip. All I'm doing is having to put pressure on the grip to hold it to the bar, and that grip is doing all the tension work on the bar. That's the correct way to use grips, but you have to have them big enough to where it does that. If you pull them tight and it fits around your wrist here, then you're not going to be able to create that little dowel, that little false dowel there with that piece of strap. Hey, Henry, you want to say hi? Say hi. Here's Henry. Hey. Say, wave to the camera. Okay, see you later. Anyways, Bear Complex are my second favorite grips right now. These are great for slick bars because it is carbon fiber, so it's a very sticky surface that it will not wear out. So if I'm at another gym where there isn't steel bars, but there are a lot of worn out steel bars or painted maybe, this is what I would use. This is my go-to grip for that. It is a synthetic carbon fiber material, so what I don't like about these is, one, I don't love the strap. It has this little buckle on it, kind of like these, the same as these other cheap straps here I showed you. This can actually hurt my wrist. It digs into my wrist a little bit over time. The other thing I don't like about it is it absorbs sweat and it stinks. They get very stinky because of the synthetic material. So Bear Complex carbon fiber grips, my second favorite grips. And my favorite grips right now, some people have already switched to these, are Victory grips. Now just look at these. You tell they look very different. These are actually the grips that Katie Brazil used, the gymnast who came to our gym and did that seminar. And anytime you get a real gymnast, like a professional high-level athlete that comes in and recommends a product, I usually listen to that. So if you could tell the difference in leather quality between this and these, you can probably just tell as a whole that this is like something nice, like your shoes or belt or something would be made of. It's very high quality leather. There is no sewn on strap. This Velcro is sewn through the leather, but this is one solid piece of leather right here. And there's no other loop like you have on these grips here. There's no plastic ring here that the grip goes through. It's just a hole cut in the leather and reinforced with some sewing around there. So when I roll this Velcro strap through here, it's very comfortable on my hand. It doesn't hurt my hand at all. The other thing I like about these are a 3-finger grip. In case you all didn't know, it goes on your last 3 fingers, not the first finger. But when I put these on, it covers a little bit more of my palm that way. So I'll put these on. Then I'll still have enough slack there to create that false little dowel that I talked about that really gives me that extra grip strength and reinforcement. And then when the strap goes around there, you've got this little piece of leather that wraps around the outside of your palm like that. And this is actually for muscle-ups. For some of you all that know, that do a lot of muscle-ups, it's not a lot of you, but that can do a lot of muscle-ups, sometimes the bar will get abrasive on the outside of your hand right there, and this little piece of leather prevents that. So, in my opinion, now these aren't cheap. Neither are the Bear Complex grips I just showed you. Neither are these. These grips are both probably $45. I think I paid for these a piece, for a pair of them. But they're a lot more expensive than these crappy grips here. But to me, this makes all the difference. This will last me years. These will. The leather is high quality. I put chalk on this leather. I'd have no problem keeping my grip on the bar, and I'm a big, heavy guy. And they're very, very, very comfortable because of this loop enclosure here. So it covers most of my palm, as you can see. So there's very little parts of my skin that would ever contact the bar, even the outside of my hand here. So this would be my top recommendation for anyone serious about this gymnastics work. Victory grips. A lot of the high-level athletes are going to these. It's high-quality, solid piece of leather construction, and I can't say enough good things about them. All right, next, moving on. The other thing I recommend every athlete buy and have their own is a jump rope. You need to have a jump rope so you can practice double unders at home. It's very hard to learn these if you don't practice them, and I talk about that all the time, but I think everybody needs a good jump rope appropriately sized for them. And again, this is something you can go on Amazon and pay $5.99 for, or something you can pay $50 for, and I think the quality does show up there. So what we have at the gym are these RX ropes. You've seen these hanging up there with a thicker cable. What you all will want is anybody learning double unders. I know these are painful when they hit you, but it's a little bit of sensory reinforcement there. But you need this thicker, heavier cable in order to kinesthetically be aware of what the cable's doing in space. It's this proprioception that we talk about where you can actually feel the cable in space. It's a little thing, but that teaches you and teaches your mind the timing of when to jump. And you can't do that with a thin, light cable. You've got to have a little bit of weight with that. So anybody learning double unders just needs to learn on a thicker rope like we have here at the gym. These are about 30 or 40 bucks to buy if you're buying your own, I think. They have good high bearing fast handles on them. You can get your cable in 6 different sizes. I think this is the size 3 going up from the thinnest. So this is called the RX rope. I think this is called the Elite cable maybe. I don't remember. It's the 3rd one up from the bottom is what these cables are. And these are great, great cables to learn on. Once you get about, the way they say it, is once you get about 30 double unders in a row, where you're getting to where you could do 30 double unders in a row without tripping, you're good enough with your timing, then it's time to move down to a faster cable, in other words, a thinner cable. And the reason for that is this thick cable, although you can always feel it, it's easy to figure those double unders out in space, a lot easier to learn with it. It will just wear you out because there's a lot of weight to the rope. So after about 30 of these, it starts getting hard on your forearms. It gets you more out of breath. You're using a lot more energy to move this cable than it would a thinner one. So that's kind of my rule too. After you get about 30 double unders in a row, it's time to move on. You can move on to the basic jump rope. It's like this, like we have at the gym, these Rogue ones. This is like the Rogue SR1. This is just a thin coated cable is all this is. It's not a thick, heavy cable. It's thin and coated. These are fine. These are about 20 bucks on Rogue, and if you wanted to just buy a jump rope, these are fine. Buddy Lee makes a rope that's the similar cable style of this with a little higher end handle apparatus. Has a better bearing at the end of the handle, a little bit more expensive probably than these. But a better cable. This will be a faster rope. It won't hurt quite as bad when it whips you, but this will be harder to learn on. You're not to say you can't learn on it, but it's very hard to feel this rope in space compared to the heavier one. The rope I use and I like is even faster. It's called the RPM rope. This is a very high-end rope. A lot of the competitive athletes at the gym use it. At the games and such use this rope. This is just a plain cable, the thinnest cable of all. Okay, the bearing is built into the tip of the handle here with a locking mechanism. Okay, on the back right here, and it spins. The whole handle spins I don't know if you can see that, but very, very fast and freely. There's very, very little weight to this rope. This cable is painted. It's not even really coated. There's not a nylon coating on this cable. But when you are doing double unders with this, again, I'm a fat guy, so I need something that's going to use as little energy as possible. You can't hardly feel this cable in space at all. So this cable is so light, you can just see there's hardly any weight to it. It doesn't even stretch itself out, really. The cable is so light that I really can't feel it. I have to just know what my rhythm is and know my cadence based on my wrists. So it uses less energy for me to jump. I can do a lot more of these unbroken unless I trip. But I won't get as tired in my wrists and my forearms and my shoulders with this rope. Again, this rope's probably about 50 or 60 bucks, though. It's a very high-end rope. You don't need to think about anything like this until you can do maybe 50 double unders in a row without stopping. But this is my favorite rope. It's called the RPM 2.0. Again, I've tried probably 5 or 6 different jump ropes. I am excited to try. The only thing I don't like about the RPM rope is it's got very short handles. If you compare this handle to the Rogue handles, where the rope attaches, you can see the difference here. The Rogue handle is a good inch to 2 inches, probably 2 inches there longer. And I actually prefer that. I like my rope to be out further away from my hands, just because I can feel the whip a little bit more when that's the case. So actually RPM, RX ropes, these ropes right here, it's coming out with a new jump rope called the Evo Speed Rope that debuted at the CrossFit Games. Some of the athletes were using it. It's basically going to be a rope with a bearing system like this, with a thin cable, but a longer handle, kind of like the Buddy Lee. If you're all familiar with the Buddy Lee ropes that have the spinning bearing on the end of the handles, it's going to be that style. So I'm going to be getting one of those as soon as they're released, and I'm excited to try that. That's my reviews on the ropes. Third thing we talk about a little bit, I don't think it's required, but I do recommend it. If you all want to get into rope climbs or you all have any trouble with box jumps, I love these right here. These are the Rock Tape Rock Guards. Want to make sure you all know how to use these again the right way. Some of y'all have these and still have problems. I don't think anybody, when we teach the J-hook method of climbing a rope, you all really don't need to do that unless you've got tall socks on, unless you come prepared. We always announce those workouts ahead of time. And those ropes will chew up your legs. And I hate, especially the women that have scars. I know they're, want their legs to look nice. So thank you, buddy. I hate the fact that it's chewing up the legs, and you don't want that. There's nastiness in that rope, probably get in those wounds. So you need something to protect your shins. This has a stretchy nylon back on it, but it has a thick, almost like a shin guard, like a soccer shin guard pad type material on the front. And some of you all still get rope burn through these, and I don't know why that is, but for some of you all it might be, no, we're doing a video right now. Henry wants to play. For some of you all, it's because you're not putting it on the right way. So when I slide this on my foot, the bottom of it should still be looped over my heel like this. And then there's a zipper on the side if you get the latest ones that zip this tight and shut. So some of you all are pulling your foot all the way through it. I've got huge feet, so maybe I can do it without breaking it, like this. And then when you climb the rope, it still slides up your shin and it starts rubbing you right in here. That is not the way you do these. You want to keep part of it, I'll probably never get it back, but down in your shoe. It actually sits on your foot like a stirrup like that. So part of this pad goes under the tongue of your shoe right here. And that means none of this shin ever gets exposed to the rope. So if you use these the right way, it's just like a sock. It's just like a little quarter ankle sock almost. I love these. Again, they're like 45 bucks on Amazon. Probably not something absolutely required. We have athletes that use just some tall knee socks, and that's cheap, a cheaper way to do it. But I like some extra padding. These also are great for box jumps, deadlifts, Olympic lifting, anything where you think you're going to scrape your shins on something. So that's that. And finally, the last piece of gear, I've talked about other optional pieces of gear, wrist wraps. People like wrist wraps. I've tried lots of different wrist wraps. I don't actually like wrist wraps at all, and I recommend everybody stay away from them as much as possible. If you are lifting, if you're doing overhead things upwards of 200-300 pounds, then yes, I think there's some need for that support. But I'll tell you, my wrists hurt all the time when I did CrossFit at the beginning as well, and I would always try to get more and more different wrist wraps and get them tighter and tighter and tighter. And my wrist never really stopped hurting until I stopped using wrist wraps. So I use them hardly ever now, only if I'm lifting something super heavy overhead, like an overhead squat or a clean and jerk or a push press maybe. Instead, work on it. Anytime we have workouts like today, we've got those front squats, or we might have thrusters, or we have something. They're always pretty much light enough where the repetitions are high. You really need to stay away from using the wraps. I know it might be uncomfortable at first, but give it a month or two. And your wrists, I don't have huge wrists. I mean, look at my wrists. I wouldn't call them dainty. I don't know. If John Holland's watching, would you call those dainty, John? I don't know. But I don't have big John Holland wrists or anything. But the ligaments inside my wrists, I think I've just gotten strong enough where my wrists really don't ever hurt me during front squats. And it's not like I have great mobility. I can get my wrist flat. That's about it. So it's not that I have great mobility. It's just that the ligaments and tendons in your wrist need to build up a little bit of strength. And that won't happen unless you get away from wrist wraps. I do have some knee sleeves. Again, I don't think these are necessary. A lot of people like them. The biggest thing they do for me is they keep my knees warm. Ray-Ban is pretty much seen as the industry leader in knee sleeves. So if you're going to buy knee sleeves, if you want to get the best, these are the best. Every power lifter or Olympic lifter would recognize Ray-Bans as the best. There are lots of knockoff brands out there. You know, again, Bear Complex makes some. I don't know, Mava. There's a ton of people out there that make pretty much a rip-off version of this. Maybe they're cheaper. I don't really know. I know that if I'm going to invest in something, I'm going to go and get something that's recognized as the gold standard. So these Ray-Bans are pretty much the gold standard. You buy them small based on their measurements. You usually go down one size, if not two sizes smaller, to get that compression on the knee. But for super heavy, again, my rule's the same. If I'm squatting super heavy, doing 1 rep or 3 rep maxes or something like that, boom, I'm going to throw these on. They give a little bit more warmth and compression of the knee. They protect it a little bit. And yes, they will give you a little bit of extra weight because of that compression. They'll help you lift a little bit more. Any high rep, lightweight squatting day, I would never use these. Again, we want to build up the ligaments and the tendons to support that range of motion. So like today when we had those front squats, no knee sleeves for me. Everyone's got different opinions on that. But my recommendation is to avoid them if you can. Yeah, maybe... I know Boomy always likes to give me crap and say it's because I'm not old enough. So maybe in 10 or 15 years, I'll change my mind and I'll be using these all the time, but hopefully not. Lastly, the last thing you need to have the day you sign up for CrossFit, in my opinion, is a good pair of cross-training shoes. Most of y'all come in with athletic shoes, running shoes, tennis shoes of some sort. Typically not what you're going to want to use for most of the work we do. And it usually comes all down to the sole. So cross-training shoes, and there's about 3 brands that are specifically recognized in CrossFit. You don't have to necessarily buy these brands. I'm sure you can go out and find cross-training shoes in the cross-training section of just about anywhere. But a cross-training shoe has a flat sole on the bottom of the shoe that's usually stiff. And that's the difference. I don't have my running shoes down here. Most of y'all know what a running shoe looks like. It's foamy, and like I can't really bend this sole this way. It's not very flexible. I can in these, the tip of it a little bit, but it's a stiff sole. Okay, it's flat. So it connects me to the ground, and it's better for squatting, better for jumping, better for anything that requires me to have a solid base. What is it not better for? Well, it's not great for running. So that's the one thing that makes cross-training shoes. It's decent for running, but not as comfortable for distance running as a running shoe would be. But running is a small percentage if you look at the grand scheme of things of what we do. So I recommend getting this for most of what we do. There's about 3 brands that are out there, and those are, of course, Reebok, who sponsors CrossFit and owns the CrossFit brand. There's Nike. I'm a Nike guy myself. These are the Nike Metcons. And there's a company called No Bull. And pretty much most CrossFit, Innovate also makes some decent shoes. But those are kind of the 3 big ones. Of the 2 main ones of those 2 are Reebok and Nike, and they make pretty much 2 versions of all their shoes. They make a really in-the-gym, true CrossFit, cross-training style shoe. And then they make a lighter running version that's still supposed to be good at the squatting and the other stuff, but also a little bit lighter and more flexible for running. And that's the side I usually tend to turn towards, because I've always found them, I cannot run in just really traditional lifting shoes. I'm a bad runner anyways, as most of you all know. So anything that can give me a little help there, I'll take. And most of the running version, that's what these are, of the training shoe. I'm still fine squatting in, doing box jumps, double unders, whatever. I haven't found that it hinders me at all. So I'm a Nike guy. They fit me well. They're more narrow. Nikes run more narrow than the Reeboks in general. I have narrow feet. These are the Metcon 3 DSX. That's the running version. They have the Metcons. Then the Metcon DSX Flynet, they call it. The DSX Flynet is just got, the top is a little bit more like a running shoe. It's got these little Flynet things in it. And then it's more flexible, the sole is. Then the regular Metcon. These, I'm not kind of a shoe whore, so I've got a lot of pair of shoes. I just actually got, these are my newest ones. These are called the Metcon Repper. They're actually cheaper than these. They're cheaper than the Flynets. And they've got this, see these grooves cut, so the sole of the foot is still good for running up here, but it's a little bit more stiff through here. And the reviews were a lot better for these when I checked them out than they were. These are 160 bucks. These were 100 bucks. So these were a good bit cheaper. And so far, I actually like them better. They're even lighter than these for me. So I really like these. The other thing that any good CrossFit shoes will have is this material right here on the inside and outside of each sole. Now, what do we think that's for? That is for climbing ropes, because we all know we have rope climbing in CrossFit. So running shoes will have foam or soft fabric right here, and a couple times after you try to climb the rope in them, they will be shredded all to pieces and your shoes will be ruined because of the abrade. The same thing that happens to your legs happens to your shoes, okay? So this is the need for, the other big need if you ever want to learn to climb ropes in our gym, not something you certainly have to do, but something we encourage you to do. This will make all the difference in the world. And the Nikes aren't as good. This material is not as grippy as the Reebok material I found. Anyways, on the new Nikes, but it's still pretty good. This rubbery sticks to the rope really well. It's got these little knots in there that kind of help grab it, I suppose. So they do help you rope climb. These types of shoes will. On the Reebok end, they've got the Nano, which is the most universally recognized CrossFit shoe. Great all-around CrossFit shoe. That would be equivalent to neither one of these. That would be equivalent to the regular Metcon shoes Nike makes, Metcon 2, Metcon 3. But then Reebok has a version called the Nano Speed or Speed Trainer. I think it's just called the Speed Trainer now, the CrossFit Speed TR. And that would be the more running version, like these Nikes are, of their CrossFit shoe. And I've tried those too and really like them. They're a little bit more narrow once again. I think they're upstairs. I have a pair of the Reebok Speed Trainers. And before they come out, Nike came out with those. That was my favorite shoe to train in. Would love those too. Just depends if you're a Reebok guy, Nike guy. Go to the store, try a few different things on maybe. But I do prefer the running version typically because I like to be able to show up to the gym with one pair of shoes that I can kind of do everything in. And to me, that works more. And running in Nanos and running, especially in the regular Metcons, I have a pair at the gym, is horrible. They feel like I'm running them with clunky pieces of concrete. And I kind of think of myself also like a clunky piece of concrete. So it doesn't help me very much. And last thing I'll go over and look at that I don't think a lot of you all need, but there's always questions about it, is weightlifting shoes. So most people don't understand CrossFit shoes, cross-training shoes are not the same as lifters. The short term for these are lifters. Look at the heel on these. This heel, this has got some, you can't tell here, but my heel's pretty much on the ground here. There's not a much of cushion right here. Look how high this heel is right here. This is pretty much like walking in, these are like the men's version of high heels, okay? The weightlifting version of high heels. Lifting shoes, there's lots of brands out there that make them. I'm actually getting ready to get some new ones. The heel's falling apart on these. These are Innovates. For you all that get serious about the weightlifting part of CrossFit, especially the squatting, but are limited by mobility, these provide a huge advantage. You will lift more weight in these, mostly because they help aid in your mobility. For you all that your chest drops as you squat because your ankles are tight or your hips are tight, these are a false crutch to sort of prevent that, because these elevate your heel, which then will make your shin be able to be more vertical, okay? And that translates into a more vertical torso. So you stay in a lot better position. Sorry, I don't know if that helped anything. I got a call come on. But overhead squatting, back squatting, front squatting, any squatting motion, these really help. You don't do anything else in these at all. They're not great for deadlifting. You actually want to be closer to the ground in deadlifting. They're only good for Olympic lifting and squatting type movements that require Olympic lifts that require squatting, which is most of them if you want to get good at it. Not something you need. In fact, you see a lot of the CrossFit Games athletes, they'll do their max rep snatch and back squat in regular old Nanos or Metcons. I see it all the time because their mobility is superior and they don't need these. But if you ever get really serious in weightlifting, your weights are going up really high, you enjoy it, you want to get more focused on Olympic lifting, you want to get a lot bigger back squat, this might be something to invest in. They're expensive as all get out. A good pair of these shoes are $200-300. They've got solid rock bottom soles on them. They don't flex at all. These are stacked plastic heel. They strap you in, so you are locked and loaded to the floor in these, and you will feel a difference when you squat in them. So you'll see some people at the gym have these. Reebok makes some, Nike makes some. These are Innovates. No Bulls, the ones I'm about to get, I love. Their lifting shoes. I've never tried their training shoes, but I love their lifting shoes. So, again, not something probably 80% of you all ever need to even worry about. But for the few of you that do want to get better at squatting and you're not taking the time to work on your mobility, and I'm guilty of that too. Even for those that are decently mobile, these will still provide you some advantage in lifting, just because it does keep that torso up higher and it connects you to the floor better. It allows you to really press down through your heel and engage the bigger muscle groups in your body. So that's what I have to say about lifters. I've only owned these, and that's it. I don't have a good brand rundown on these. Some people like the new Nikes that have come out. Adidas is sort of the age-old gold standard lifter was the old Addy Powers and lifting shoes. That's what the Olympians from back in the days used, and they still make those, especially the old wood-soled ones. I think Adidas is sort of seen as the industry leader still, probably in lifting shoes. Certainly Nike's coming on strong. The CrossFitters are all sponsored by Reebok, so they use Reebok's lifting shoes. A lot of you all have some of those. I've never tried them, so I don't have a lot of reviews. I like these because they're one strap. For some reason, I just prefer one strap instead of having to have two straps that go over it. And these were marketed as having a flexible forefoot. So if I do get to a workout, these are a little bit more of a hybrid lifting shoe. If I do get to a workout that maybe has a bunch of squatting, say mixed with double unders, and I do need to do something other than just squat, I might be able to use these as an option. I actually didn't use these on the rope climb workout the other day because they are still somewhat flexible. But typically, I would never leave the gym in these. I would never, you definitely would never run in them. They would tear your feet all to pieces. You wouldn't do much else in these ever except lifting and squatting in particular, if that makes sense. So anyways, that's my rundown on gear. That's my reviews. Grips, number one, first thing I think everyone needs to buy. I think you get what you pay for in that category. I love the Victory grips. I couldn't recommend them more. These are my favorite. I got the leather ones, by the way. They have another one called the Stealth that are synthetic. I haven't tried those yet, but this is what Katie recommended and what I like. I've liked them. I think Crystal has some. Aubrey has some. Several athletes in the gym are using these now. So they're great, great, great grips. I can't recommend them enough. Jump rope. Go buy yourself a jump rope. Don't get the cheap $10 rubber one on Amazon that is all kinked up and crappy. You need something with some weight. You need a cable-based speed rope. It needs to have a cable in it. If you want a thin-coated one, that's fine. If you want to get a thicker one to learn, that's great too. And lastly, shoes. Get out of your running shoes when you're working out and doing this. Get into some good training shoes to give yourself a good base and good platform to train from. All right? If anybody has any other questions or anything I would recommend or do, just shoot me a message and I'll try to help. All right. Take care, guys.